Step out of the present and walk with me into the heart of ancient India. We have arrived in Pataliputra, the magnificent capital of the Maurya Empire, where polished sandstone pillars gleam in the morning light, and the streets hum with merchants from Persia, Greece, and distant kingdoms beyond the eastern seas. Look around you. These wooden fortifications stretching before us, crowned with 570 towers, once protected the largest empire the Indian subcontinent had ever known. 5 million square kilometers, from the snow-capped peaks of the Hindu Kush to the tropical shores of the Bay of Bengal, all united under a single vision of governance that would transform the ancient world. This is not simply the story of conquest. This is the complete journey of an empire that dared to imagine something unprecedented. A civilization built not just on military might, but on moral law, administrative genius, and philosophical transformation. We will witness how a young revolutionary named Chandragupta, guided by the brilliant strategist Chanakya, toppled an ancient dynasty and forged an empire in just 2 decades. We will walk through these very streets during their golden age, understanding how sophisticated bureaucracy, espionage networks, and economic systems held this vast realm together. We will stand beside Emperor Ashoka on the blood-soaked battlefield of Kalinga, witnessing the moment of transformation that would reshape his empire from a war machine into a beacon of ethical governance. And we will watch as the seeds of decline take root, as weak successors lose grip on distant provinces, as the empire fragments and finally falls to betrayal. By the end of this journey, you will understand not just what happened here, but how an empire rose from revolutionary ambition, reached heights of unprecedented unity and moral governance, and ultimately collapsed under the weight of its own vastness. The pillars Ashoka erected still stand across this land, their inscriptions proclaiming principles that echo through 23 centuries to shape modern India itself. If you enjoy these complete journeys through ancient civilizations, please subscribe so you don't miss our next exploration. Each week we bring you the full story of a lost world, from its first breath to its final legacy. Now let us begin our journey at the very beginning, in the year 340 BCE, when a boy destined to become emperor first draws breath in a world he will soon transform forever. The Gangetic Plain stretches beneath monsoon clouds in the 4th century before the Common Era, its black soil enriched by centuries of flooding. Along the southern bank of the Ganges, wooden palisades rise 15 meters high, encircling Pataliputra, the fortified heart of the Nanda dynasty. 570 towers punctuate these walls, their timber frames housing archers who guard the wealthiest kingdom in the subcontinent. Within these defenses, the Nanda rulers have accumulated treasures that Greek historians will later describe with astonishment: 80,000 cavalry, 200,000 infantry, 8,000 war chariots, and 6,000 war elephants. Yet this military might rests upon foundations of resentment. The Nandas tax mercilessly, their collectors extracting wealth from farmers and merchants alike to feed an insatiable treasury. In Taxila, 1,500 kilometers northwest, a young man of uncertain parentage trains in the arts of warfare and statecraft. Chandragupta Maurya's origins remain obscured by legend. Some accounts claim royal Kshatriya blood, others suggest humbler beginnings among peacock trainers. What survives in historical record is his presence in Taxila's learning centers around 325 BCE, where he observes Alexander's Macedonian forces probing the northwestern kingdoms. Here, Amid stone lecture halls and debating grounds, Chandragupta encounters the Brahmin scholar Chanakya, recently expelled from the Nanda court after suffering public humiliation. Chanakya's mind operates like a siege engine, calculating angles of political leverage and structural weaknesses in dynastic power. He begins composing the Arthashastra, a manual of statecraft that will detail everything from taxation rates to the deployment of spies, from the organization of treasuries to the psychology of conquest. In Chandragupta, he recognizes the instrument of his revenge, a warrior with ambition matching his own strategic brilliance. Together, they forge an alliance built on complementary skills: Chanakya's intellectual architecture and Chandragupta's martial capability. The campaign against the Nandas unfolds through systematic preparation. Chandragupta builds his army from disaffected kingdoms and tribal confederations, promising liberation from Nanda oppression. The strategy avoids direct confrontation with the dynasty's massive forces, instead securing peripheral territories, cutting trade routes, and eroding the economic foundations of Nanda power. By 321 BCE, the moment arrives. Chandragupta's forces breach Pataliputra's wooden walls. The last Nanda emperor, Dhanananda, falls from power. The Mauryan Dynasty begins its reign over Magadha, and with it, the architecture of India's first continental empire takes shape. The Mauryan war machine turns westward in 321 BCE, where Alexander's fragmented empire presents both opportunity and threat. Seleucus I Nicator, the Macedonian general who claims the eastern territories of Alexander's conquest, pushes toward the Indus Valley with Greek phalanxes and companion cavalry. His ambition collides with Chandragupta's expanding domain along the northwestern frontier. The confrontation unfolds across the Hindu Kush foothills between 305 and 303 BCE. Mauryan forces deploy war elephants in formations that shatter Greek cavalry charges. Massive animals bearing wooden howdahs with archers, their trumpeting creating chaos among horses unfamiliar with their scent. The phalanx, Alexander's invincible weapon, proves vulnerable to elephant assault and the mobility of Indian chariots across open terrain. Seleucus recognizes the strategic reality. His supply lines stretch impossibly thin, while Chandragupta commands resources of the entire Gangetic plain. Negotiation replaces warfare. The Treaty of 303 BCE reshapes South Asian geopolitics. Seleucus cedes the satrapies of Gandhara, Paropamisade, Arachosia, and Gedrosia, territories encompassing modern Afghanistan, Baluchistan, and eastern Iran. In exchange, Chandragupta provides 500 war elephants, creatures that will later help Seleucus defeat his rival Antigonus at the Battle of Ipsus. A marriage alliance seals the agreement, binding Greek and Indian dynasties through blood. The diplomatic settlement brings Megasthenes to Pataliputra in 302 BCE as Seleucid ambassador. His residence at the Mauryan court produces Indica, a detailed account of Indian society, governance, and military organization. He describes an empire of extraordinary administrative sophistication, its territories connected by royal highways marked with distance pillars every KOS, its army numbering 600,000 infantry, 30,000 cavalry, 9,000 elephants, and 8,000 chariots. Chandragupta's expansion continues southward and eastward. The Deccan Plateau yields to Mauryan governors. Bengal's rice-rich deltas fall under imperial administration. By 297 BCE, the empire stretches 3,000 kilometers from the Hindu Kush to the Bay of Bengal, encompassing an estimated 5 million square kilometers, the largest political entity the subcontinent has known. The emperor's final act defies expectation. In 297 BCE, Chandragupta abdicates, renouncing throne and power for Jain asceticism. He travels south to Shravanabelagola in Karnataka, where he adopts the rigorous practices of Salakana, gradual fasting unto death. The warrior who forged an empire through strategic violence ends his life in absolute non-violence, leaving his son Bindusara to inherit a continental domain built on Chanakya's administrative blueprint and sustained by military might. The Ganges flows past Pataliputra's northern ramparts in 290 BCE, its waters reflecting a city that has become the administrative heart of the subcontinent. The capital stretches 14 kilometers along the river's southern bank, its width spanning 2 4/10 kilometers, a parallelogram of timber fortifications punctuated by 570 towers and 64 gates. The Greek ambassador Megasthenes walks these streets during Bindusara's reign, recording observations that will survive in fragments. Walls of massive teak logs driven deep into alluvial soil, a moat fed by the Sun River measuring 600 feet wide and 45 feet deep, guard towers rising at precise intervals along the perimeter. The royal palace occupies the city's heart, its pillars of polished sandstone gleaming like mirrors in morning light. Wooden halls stretch across 80 pillars, their surfaces carved with peacocks and lotus motifs, then covered in gold leaf. Megasthenes compares the complex to Persian palaces at Susa and Ekbatana, noting the sophistication of Indian craftsmanship. Stone sculptors achieve surfaces so smooth that courtiers see their reflections in columns, a technique requiring months of grinding with progressively finer abrasives. Beyond palace walls, the city pulses with 400,000 inhabitants. Terracotta ring wells penetrate 20 feet into water tables, their cylindrical segments fitted without mortar. Burnt brick drains run beneath major thoroughfares, carrying waste toward the river, through channels engineered with precise gradients. Northern black polished ware pottery fills marketplace stalls, vessels fired to metallic sheens of deep grey and black, their surfaces reflecting lamplight in evening bazaars. The main market district sprawls near the western gates, where Persian merchants display lapis lazuli from Badakhshan, Greek traders offer amphorae of Mediterranean wine, and Tamil sailors bring pearls from Sri Lankan waters. Mauryan officials circulate through crowds, checking standardized weights of copper and stone, collecting taxes calculated by Arthashastra formulas. Punch-marked silver kashapanas change hands, coins bearing geometric symbols struck by multiple dies, their irregular shapes testimony to hand-hammering techniques. Administrative quarters house the empire's bureaucratic apparatus. Palm leaf manuscripts fill cedar shelves in record offices, their surfaces inscribed with Brahmi characters documenting tax revenues from distant provinces, military requisitions, judicial proceedings. Scribes sit cross-legged on woven mats, their iron styluses scratching accounts onto treated leaves that will be bound with silk cords. The hierarchy extends through 7 administrative tiers, from village headmen to provincial governors, all reporting ultimately to the emperor through channels Chanakya designed. Bindusara governs from this urban center between 297 and 273 BCE, maintaining his father's systems while expanding southern territories. The city becomes a crossroads where Hellenistic philosophy meets Vedic tradition, where Buddhist monks debate with Jain ascetics in public squares, where the material wealth of conquest transforms into monumental architecture and sophisticated urban planning. Pataliputra stands as proof that administrative genius can organize millions across vast distances, that timber and stone can manifest imperial ambition, that a single city can coordinate the governance of a subcontinent. The administrative machinery that sustains the Mauryan Empire operates from chambers where palm leaf manuscripts line walls floor to ceiling. Scribes in white cotton dhoti bend over low wooden desks, their iron styluses scratching Brahmi characters into treated leaves. Each document records a transaction, a judgment, a census figure, a tax assessment. The Arthashastra, Chanakya's treatise on statecraft, provides the blueprint for this bureaucratic apparatus, transforming philosophical principles into practical governance across 5 million square kilometers. Revenue collection follows standardized protocols. Tax assessors travel royal highways, measuring agricultural land with bamboo rods, calculating yields based on soil quality and irrigation access. The state claims 1/6 of all agricultural produce, collected in grain or silver Kashapana coins stamped with geometric punch marks. In marketplace stalls, officials verify weights using stone standards, ensuring merchants cannot defraud customers or treasury. Toll collectors at river crossings record cargo manifests, assessing duties on goods moving between provinces. The system generates wealth that fills treasury chambers with stacked coins, their metallic surfaces catching lamplight. Espionage networks penetrate every level of society. Agents disguised as wandering ascetics, merchants, and entertainers move through cities gathering intelligence. Some operate as provocateurs, testing official loyalty by offering bribes. Others monitor grain prices, reporting shortages before famine develops. In Pataliputra's administrative quarter, spy masters compile reports in sealed chambers, their intelligence informing imperial decisions. The Arthashastra categorizes informants into fixed agents embedded in communities and wandering agents who move between territories, creating surveillance systems that detect rebellion before it organizes. Military cantonments outside major cities house the standing army. 600,000 infantry drilling with bamboo-reinforced shields, 30,000 cavalry exercising horses on packed earth, 9,000 war elephants maintained in specialized stables. Mahouts train elephants from youth, teaching them to charge on command, to trumpet intimidation, to crush enemy formations. Blacksmiths forge iron-tipped arrows by thousands, their workshops producing standardized weapons for imperial arsenals. Military governors command provincial garrisons, their authority checked by civilian administrators who control supply chains. This dual oversight prevents military coups while maintaining readiness. Judicial systems operate through courts, where magistrates hear disputes over property, contracts, and criminal accusations. The Arthashastra prescribes punishments calibrated to offense severity, fines for minor infractions, mutilation for serious crimes, execution for treason. Torture extracts confessions from accused criminals, though testimony obtained under duress requires corroboration. Appeals travel upward through administrative hierarchy, reaching the emperor for capital cases. Legal proceedings generate documentation that clerks file in archives, creating precedents for future judgments. Economic regulations govern manufacturing, trade, and labor. State workshops produce textiles, weapons, and luxury goods, their output supplementing private enterprise. Guilds organize artisans, weavers, metalworkers, jewelers, negotiating collectively with authorities over taxation and working conditions. The state monopolizes mining, forestry, and elephant capture, controlling strategic resources. Price controls prevent speculation during shortages, while grain reserves buffer against harvest failures. This administrative architecture transforms Chanakya's political philosophy into institutional reality, creating governance systems that survive their architect's death and continue functioning through Bindusara's reign into Ashoka's early rule. The Arthashastra becomes more than text. It becomes the empire's operating system, processing information and resources across distances that would overwhelm simpler organizations. The succession crisis following Bindusara's death in 273 BCE plunges the empire into 4 years of internal conflict. Ashoka, one of several princes with legitimate claims, emerges victorious through methods the historical record only hints at: brothers eliminated, rival factions suppressed, opposition crushed with systematic efficiency. His coronation in 268 BCE marks the ascension of a ruler shaped by violence, trained in Chanakya's ruthless pragmatism, viewing the empire as an instrument requiring firm control. The eastern kingdom of Kalinga, occupying coastal territories between the Mahanadi and Godavari rivers, maintains independence through Mauryan expansion. Its ports control maritime trade routes to Southeast Asia. Its agricultural wealth feeds a prosperous population. Its strategic position threatens Mauryan access to southern provinces. In 261 BCE, Ashoka mobilizes the full imperial war machine, infantry columns, cavalry squadrons, elephant corps, against this final unconquered territory. The Kalinga campaign unfolds with devastating efficiency. Mauryan forces overwhelm coastal defenses, penetrate inland fortifications, systematically reduce resistance. The Kalingan army fights with desperate determination, knowing defeat means subjugation. Villages burn, irrigation systems collapse, refugees flee toward forests offering temporary sanctuary. The battlefield near Dhauli, where the Daya River flows towards the Bay of Bengal, becomes a killing ground where military precision meets civilian catastrophe. 100,000 die in combat and its immediate aftermath. Another 150,000 face deportation. Populations relocated to stabilize newly conquered territories. Families separated, communities destroyed. The Daya River, witnesses later report, runs red for days, its waters carrying evidence of imperial conquest downstream to the sea. Ashoka surveys the aftermath from Dhauli's heights, where the Mauryan standard now flies over pacified territory. The victory is complete, the strategic objective achieved, the empire's territorial integrity secured. Yet something fractures within the emperor's consciousness as he observes the human cost of his triumph. Rock Edict 13, carved years later, preserves his testimony. The slaughter of the defenseless, the separation of families, the suffering of the innocent. These images haunt him with intensity that transforms imperial policy. Buddhist monks arrive at court in Pataliputra, their presence initially peripheral to governance. Their teachings on ahimsa, non-violence, and karuna, compassion, find unexpected resonance with an emperor processing psychological trauma. The conversion unfolds gradually, not as sudden revelation but as systematic reorientation of values. The Arthashastra's cold pragmatism, which served Chandragupta and Bindusara effectively, now appears insufficient for an emperor confronting the moral implications of absolute power. The transformation manifests in concrete policy changes. Military expansion ceases. The empire's borders freeze at their Kalingan extent. Dhamma, a concept blending Buddhist ethics with broader moral principles, becomes the new governing philosophy. Stone carvers receive commissions for unprecedented projects. Pillars and rock faces across the empire will carry imperial edicts proclaiming religious tolerance, social welfare, respect for all life. At Dhauli, where the Kalinga campaign reached its bloody conclusion, workers carve Ashoka's remorse directly into living rock. The inscription faces the battlefield, eternal testimony to the emperor's recognition that conquest's costs exceed its benefits, that power without moral restraint produces only suffering, that governance must serve human welfare rather than imperial glory. The quarries of Chunar lie 200 kilometers upstream from Pataliputra, where geological forces have deposited seams of fine-grained sandstone ideal for imperial purposes. Teams of stonemasons identify monolithic blocks within the living rock, measuring dimensions that will yield pillars 12 meters tall, weighing 50 tons. Bronze chisels and wooden wedges separate these giants from their matrix. The selected stone possesses uniform texture without fractures, essential for the mirror polish that will distinguish Ashokan pillars from all previous Indian stonework. Transportation presents engineering challenges that mobilize entire districts. Wooden sledges reinforced with iron carry each pillar to the Ganges, where specially constructed barges await. The river journey to installation sites requires coordination with seasonal water levels, pilots navigating channels that can accommodate such extraordinary cargo. At Sarnath, where the Buddha first taught, workers excavate foundation pits 4 meters deep, filling them with rubble and timber to create stable bases. Ropes and wooden scaffolding raise pillars vertical, a process requiring days of careful adjustment. The polishing technique transforms rough stone into reflective surfaces. Craftsmen apply progressively finer abrasives, crushed stone, then sand, then plant-based compounds, rubbing in circular motions that gradually eliminate surface irregularities. The final polish uses cloth and organic pastes, producing a finish that mirrors surrounding landscapes. This lustrous surface serves practical purposes. Inscriptions carved into polished stone achieve greater legibility, their letters catching light at multiple angles. Sculptors create capitals that crown each pillar with symbolic power. At Sarnath, 4 lions stand back-to-back atop an abacus decorated with wheels, bulls, horses, and lions in relief. The lion's musculature shows anatomical precision, their open mouths suggesting the roar of Dhamma spreading across the world. Below, an inverted lotus connects capital to shaft, its petals carved with delicate attention to natural form. These capitals require separate quarrying and transport, their assembly atop pillars demanding precise engineering. The inscriptions themselves employ multiple scripts addressing the empire's linguistic diversity. Brahmi characters flow across pillars in the heartland, their rightward script recording Prakrit language accessible to administrators and merchants. Northwestern pillars carry Kharosthi script, its leftward flow familiar to populations influenced by Persian traditions. At Kandahar, bilingual inscriptions present Dhamma principles in Greek and Aramaic, acknowledging the Hellenistic populations settled since Alexander's campaigns. The content varies by location. Some pillars proclaim general ethical principles, others announce specific administrative reforms. Several mark pilgrimage sites with historical significance. Rock edicts utilize natural stone faces where pillar erection proves impractical. At Girnar in Gujarat, at Khalsi in the Himalayan foothills, at Dhauli overlooking the Kalinga battlefield, masons carve lengthy texts directly into cliff faces. These inscriptions reach broader audiences, positioned along trade routes where travelers pause to read imperial communications. The 14th Rock Edict, appearing at 8 locations, explains Dhamma's core principles: respect for all religious traditions, ethical conduct in personal relations, generosity toward those in need, truthful speech, moderation in expenditure. Simultaneously, stupa construction accelerates across the empire. Traditional accounts credit Ashoka with building 84,000 stupas, though archaeological evidence confirms dozens of major monuments and hundreds of smaller shrines. At Sanchi, workers expand an existing stupa to twice its original diameter, encasing the earlier structure in brick and stone. The hemispherical dome rises to 16 meters, its surface plastered smooth and painted white. A stone railing defines the circumambulatory path, its posts and crossbars carved with lotus medallions and geometric patterns. 4 gateways will later receive elaborate Torana arches, though these sculptural programs await subsequent centuries. The pillar and edict program continues throughout Ashoka's reign, creating a network of imperial communication unprecedented in scale. By 232 BCE, 33 major inscriptions survive into the modern era, with ancient sources suggesting many more have disappeared. These monuments transform governance from oral pronouncements to permanent written record, from centralized palace decrees to distributed messages reaching distant populations. The polished pillars stand as physical manifestations of Dhamma, enduring, reflective, visible across vast distances, their inscriptions outlasting the empire that created them. The Dhamma inscriptions carved into stone and pillar represent only the visible surface of Ashoka's transformation of imperial governance. Beginning around 250 BCE, the emperor implements practical systems translating moral principles into administrative reality across 5 million square kilometers. Rock Edict II announces the establishment of medical treatment facilities for humans and animals throughout the empire, with cultivation of medicinal herbs where they do not naturally grow. Archaeological evidence from multiple sites confirms construction of healing centers stocked with plant-based remedies documented in contemporary Ayurvedic texts. The royal highways connecting Pataliputra to distant provinces undergo systematic enhancement. Every 9 miles, rest houses rise beside the road, their burnt brick walls providing shelter for travelers, regardless of status or destination. Wells lined with terracotta rings supply water. Shade trees, mango, banyan, fig, are planted in rows, their canopies creating corridors of relief from subcontinental heat. Edict 5 specifies these improvements extend 1,600 kilometers, transforming imperial roads into infrastructure serving public welfare rather than merely military logistics. A new category of official appears in administrative records: Dhamma Mahamatas, officers of moral law. These appointees travel circuits through provinces, mediating disputes, ensuring humane treatment of servants and prisoners, promoting religious harmony, inspecting conditions in healing centers and rest houses. Unlike traditional administrators focused on tax collection and order maintenance, Dhamma officers address social welfare, their authority deriving directly from imperial mandate rather than regional governors. The system creates parallel governance emphasizing ethical conduct alongside conventional bureaucratic control. Religious tolerance becomes explicit policy. Edict 12 declares respect for all sects, restraint in criticism of other beliefs, and recognition that all traditions contain worthy elements. In Pataliputra, Brahmin priests, Buddhist monks, Jain ascetics, and Ajivika philosophers receive royal patronage. Festival days honor multiple traditions. This pluralism serves practical purposes in an empire encompassing diverse populations. But the inscriptions frame tolerance as moral imperative rather than administrative convenience. The Third Buddhist Council convenes in Pataliputra around 250 BCE, gathering monks to standardize doctrine and organize missionary activity. Ashoka's son Mahinda leads an embassy to Sri Lanka, carrying Buddhist teachings and cuttings from the Bodhi tree under which the Buddha achieved enlightenment. Other missions depart for Hellenistic kingdoms, Ptolemaic Egypt, Seleucid Syria, Macedon, Epirus, Cyrene. Rock Edict 13 lists these destinations, though Greek sources remain silent on their reception. The diplomatic initiatives extend Mauryan influence beyond military or commercial channels, projecting soft power through philosophical exchange. The animal welfare provisions detailed in edicts reflect Buddhism's emphasis on non-violence toward all sentient beings. Certain species receive protection from slaughter. Royal kitchens reduce meat consumption dramatically. Forests become sanctuaries where hunting faces restriction. These policies encounter resistance from populations whose livelihoods depend on animal husbandry or whose religious traditions involve sacrifice. Yet the inscriptions present them as non-negotiable elements of righteous governance. By 232 BCE, the Dhamma system has operated for 2 decades, its infrastructure visible across the empire in rest houses, hospitals, planted groves, and inscribed declarations. The experiment attempts reconciling imperial power with ethical restraint, military strength with non-violence, centralized authority with respect for local traditions. Whether these principles penetrate beyond official proclamations into actual governance remains debated. But the physical evidence, wells still supplying water, pillars still standing, inscriptions still readable, testifies to sustained implementation of Ashoka's vision during his lifetime. The year 232 BCE marks the end of Ashoka's 36-year reign. The emperor's death removes the singular authority that has held the vast territorial expanse together through force of personality and ideological commitment. Within months, the empire fragments along lines of succession. Dasharatha, governing the eastern provinces from Pataliputra, inherits the Gangetic heartland. Samprati, administering the western territories from Ujjain, controls the regions stretching toward the Arabian Sea. The partition creates 2 centers of Mauryan authority where one existed before, each grandson claiming legitimacy while lacking the resources or reputation to enforce unity. The administrative infrastructure Ashoka maintained begins deteriorating through reduced funding. Rest houses along the royal highways, once staffed and provisioned at imperial expense, stand empty as provincial governors redirect tax revenues to local needs. The roads themselves, requiring constant maintenance in monsoon regions, develop ruts and washouts that go unrepaired. Merchants traveling between Pataliputra and Taxila find wells silted, shade trees dead from neglect, distance markers toppled. The network that facilitated communication and trade across 3,000 kilometers weakens as central authority fragments. Provincial governors, appointed to administer distant territories, recognize the opportunity presented by weak successors. In the Deccan, officials who governed on behalf of Mauryan authority begin asserting independence, retaining tax revenues rather than forwarding them to Pataliputra. The Satavahana dynasty emerges in the western Deccan around 230 BCE, carving territory from Mauryan control without military confrontation, simply ceasing to acknowledge imperial authority. Similar processes occur in other peripheral regions where geographic distance from the capital creates administrative autonomy. The northwestern frontier faces different pressures. Greco-Bactrian rulers, descendants of Alexander's successors who established kingdoms in Central Asia, begin probing the Hindu Kush passes in the 180s BCE. The Mauryan garrisons that once defended Gandhara and Arachosia have diminished through budget cuts and recruitment failures. Greek cavalry crosses the mountains, occupying territories that Chandragupta secured through treaty with Seleucus a century earlier. The loss severs overland trade routes connecting India to Persia and the Mediterranean, reducing customs revenues that sustained imperial finances. Economic strain compounds political fragmentation. The massive standing army, 600,000 infantry, 30,000 cavalry, 9,000 war elephants, requires enormous expenditure for salaries, fodder, equipment, and training. The bureaucracy supporting tax collection, record-keeping, judicial administration, and public works employs tens of thousands of officials drawing state salaries. As provincial revenues decline and trade income diminishes, the treasury at Pataliputra empties. Successors reduce military strength, releasing soldiers who become unemployed or turn to banditry. They curtail bureaucratic positions, weakening the administrative capacity that enabled centralized governance. The empire that once stretched from Kandahar to Kalinga contracts toward its Magadhan core. By 200 BCE, effective Mauryan control extends little beyond the Gangetic Plain and immediately adjacent territories. The pillars Ashoka erected still stand in distant regions, their inscriptions proclaiming Dhamma principles, but the authority that commissioned them no longer governs those lands. The stupas remain objects of veneration, but their imperial sponsors have lost political relevance beyond the heartland. The palace chambers at Pataliputra witness the dynasty's final moments in 185 BCE. Emperor Brihadratha, seventh ruler since Ashoka's death, conducts a military review when his own commander-in-chief Pushyamitra Shunga strikes. The assassination occurs not in battle, but during a ceremonial parade, the general's blade ending 137 years of Mauryan rule in a single violent act. Pushyamitra establishes the Shunga dynasty immediately, claiming legitimacy through military strength rather than Mauryan lineage. The wooden palace that once hosted Greek ambassadors and Buddhist councils falls into neglect. Pataliputra's administrative apparatus fragments as Pushyamitra consolidates power only in the central Gangetic region. The sophisticated bureaucracy detailed in the Arthashastra dissolves, its seven-tiered hierarchy replaced by simpler regional governance. The treasury chambers that funded hospitals and highway maintenance stand depleted, their punch-marked Kashapana coins scattered across successor kingdoms. Yet the physical monuments Ashoka commissioned endure beyond political collapse. The polished sandstone pillars remain standing at Sarnath, Lorya Nandanga, and Sanchi, their mirror-finished surfaces reflecting changing dynasties. The Brahmi inscriptions proclaiming Dhamma principles survive readable, studied by Gupta emperors 5 centuries later, and Mughal rulers a millennium afterward. The Sanchi stupa receives elaborate carved gateways under Shunga and Satavahana patronage, each dynasty adding to Mauryan foundations. The administrative innovations persist through successor states. The Gupta Empire adopts Mauryan provincial structures and taxation systems. Mughal Emperor Akbar studies Ashokan principles of religious tolerance when formulating his own policies of sulh-i-kul. The concept of a unified subcontinent governed from Pataliputra influences every subsequent empire builder from Samudragupta to the British Raj. Buddhist missionaries carrying Ashoka's Dhamma teachings establish monasteries across Central Asia, reaching China by the 1st century CE and Japan by the 6th century. The rock edicts in Kandahar, inscribed in Greek and Aramaic, testify to Buddhism's westward spread. Sri Lankan chronicles preserve detailed Mauryan history through Mahinda's mission records. Archaeological rediscovery begins in the 19th century, when British officer Alexander Cunningham identifies Ashokan pillars and deciphers Brahmi script. Excavations at Pataliputra reveal burnt brick fortifications and terracotta ring wells. The polished sandstone fragments confirm Megasthenes' descriptions of mirrored palace columns. The lion capital from Sarnath, its 4 lions standing back-to-back atop a circular abacus decorated with Dhamma wheels, becomes independent India's national emblem in 1950. The Ashokan chakra appears centered on the national flag. Modern India's constitutional principles of secularism and religious tolerance trace intellectual lineage to Dhamma governance. The Mauryan achievement, unifying diverse regions through administrative sophistication rather than mere conquest, governing through ethical principles alongside practical statecraft, commissioning monuments that communicate across millennia, establishes templates for South Asian civilization. The empire's collapse demonstrates the fragility of centralized power, yet its legacy in governance philosophy, architectural innovation, and the ideal of continental unity shapes the subcontinent's political imagination for 2,000 years beyond Brihadratha's assassination. Thank you for joining this journey through the Mauryan Empire's complete story. Subscribe to witness more civilizations rise, flourish, and leave their eternal marks on human history.